Let's return to our lead story tonight, the government's Families Income Package. The Prime Minister says the package will mean the number of children living in poverty will be nearly halved. There's a figure attached and therefore a measurable target, 88,000 children by 2021. 384,000 families will get more money each week. We heard the details of this from our political editor Jane Patterson at the beginning of the program an hour ago. But the package includes an extension to working for families and a boost to the accommodation supplement, a payment for young babies as well as a winter payment for superannuitants and most beneficiaries. I spoke to Jacinda Ardern just before we came to air tonight, and she told me the package is about addressing inequality. So I asked her, how does it do that?
Using working for families and by creating a new tax credit essentially called Best Start, we're able to put into the back pockets of 384,000 families, so low and middle income families, an increase of roughly on average $75 per week by 2020-2021. That means 88,000 children are lifted out of poverty. And based on the numbers of children in poverty right now, that's a reduction of 48%.
The accommodation supplement, of course, was a National Party initiative to increase it, announced in the May budget this year, right? So you have picked up on that and run with it. Working for families, obviously originally a Labour Party policy, and you are increasing the amount of money people will receive under that. Will it be enough? The measure, of course, is the relationship of household income to median income, but will it, in a city like Auckland, make lives materially different in a way that children themselves will benefit from?
Well, what we know is that the increases have to be, for our low and middle income families, for it to feel significant, the increases actually do need to be significant. And that's why we've been so targeted. If you do things like this via income tax changes, you might on average see families, get $20 a week. But when you use a mechanism like working for families, and we've increased the number of families who will be eligible for it as well to reach more middle income earners, then that's where you're able to be much more targeted and increase the amount that they get. And so for us, this was the way that we could balance two objectives, make it meaningful, make a big difference, and make it affordable. And we've achieved both.
Not much money left in the kitty, is there? And so if we look at operating spending, if we look at capital allowances, if we look at the point Stephen Joyce is making, that the coalition has set very tight operating allowances for their future spending and have left very little room for dealing with the ongoing spending pressures that any government faces. The cupboard is relatively bare.
I find that a really interesting statement from Stephen Joyce because, operating allowance, we're talking over 2.5 billion. That is higher than what the last national government was anticipating. So yes, look, there is no doubt as an operating allowance goes, that is tight. But we also have an expectation that we will be fiscally prudent, that we will run over some of the existing spending priorities, check whether they fit with ours, and make sure that we're working as efficiently as possible.
That expectation,
but it is absolutely achievable. In terms of capital allowance, what we've got as a capital allowance, once you take into account all of the things we've already committed to, is 12.6 billion over a cycle, and we believe that allows us to make the investments we need to.
Nonetheless, you are front-loading, aren't you? And that is, I guess, inevitable when you have a package that has a target of reducing child poverty in numerical terms and measurable terms by 2021. You have to, given that you have invested so much in this, given that you are front-loading, given that by any definition there isn't terribly much left over for a rainy day, this has to work, doesn't it?
Well, front-loading, I'd just call it prioritising. Of course, what we're achieving with this package is significant. It lifts more children out of poverty. It benefits families to a greater degree than things like a simple tax cut would. But keeping in mind, we've been able to do all of that while spending less than what the last government wanted to on tax cuts. In fact, $2.8 billion less. And the reason we wanted to do that is because we saw that actually we've got a range of deficits in education, in health, in our services that every New Zealander uses, regardless of their income level. We wanted to see them feel the benefits of this government too. So it's about improving the services we all rely on, whilst at the same time acknowledging that there are low and middle income families who really were feeling the pinch.
When will children feel the benefit? In terms of the kind of material hardships, and we've been looking at this on Checkpoint this week, that Kids Can and Kickstart address, which is to directly target children through their schools. Yes. If the funding for those programs desists, will the money that is coming to them through this announcement, these initiatives, make the instant difference that will make up for what Kids Can will not be able to do?
Yeah, and what I would say is that, yes, this comes in July. That's when our budget cycle then is kicking in, and actually that's the lead time that we were told that departments needed to make this work, which is why we're bringing it in now in order to make it happen in July. I would have loved to have done it tomorrow. I would have loved for families to have felt the impact immediately. In the meantime, there is no doubt that need exists, and it would be premature to say any of those services will have a different experience with us as they have in the past. We haven't yet gone through a budget process to determine what funding for all of those services looks like, and they have made a difference to material hardship. They've provided raincoats and things that kids on a day-to-day basis need. But this is about acknowledging that for so many families who have tight budgets, actually they need the dignity of decent incomes. And yes, we can do that through things like this package, but actually we also need to do it through decent wages. There is no single answer here, and it is about making sure that as a government we have an eye to creating an economy that ensures everyone feels the benefit of our country's success and prosperity. And that's what our focus is.
Absolutely, and that's what National was saying too. And their response to it was increasing the accommodation supplement, which we've discussed you are continuing with, and the tax cuts. What is the material difference between Labor's response and National's response, and why do you think Labor's is right?
The material difference is, John, that National wanted to give me a tax cut too. I don't need a tax cut. And I had a number of people during the election who said I would rather see an extra nurse in my hospital or extra support workers in my school than see me individually get $20 a week. And so that's a significant difference. Keeping in mind, we make a bigger difference to the families who need it most while spending less as we do it, so we can also invest in health and education.